planetary race that is having problems with the riffraff. Okay? But what's unique about us is that genetically we are considered, to the Andromedan race, genetic royalty. And I have been saying this since day one. We are extremely unique. And it's because of that uniqueness we have enormous strength. We have enormous capacity for emotions. We have enormous intent and drive to not only to survive, but to create. What we lack is faith in ourselves. At the end of World War II, let me put it another way. The Nazis didn't lose the war. Okay? Germany lost the war, but the Nazis were brought here and to Russia. Okay? Now, the mind technology, the mind control, the space technology, the reverse engineering, the technology that they had been given prior to the war by a small group of extraterrestrials from the star system of Aldebaran was brought here and honed and polished and combined with other technology that the Zeta 2s, the Dows, what many folks know as the Greys, all those began to complement each other. Remarkable technology. Technology we absolutely need here. The combustion engine has been obsolete for 70 years. I understand that India also is now going to experiment on wireless electricity. Hell, Tesla did that in 1902 in Colorado Springs. We know it works. Okay, but those that were funding his experiment asked him, where's the meter? And he said, well, there is none, it's free. They shut it down. Okay? The question is, well, we'll get to that. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around here. The reality is, ladies and gentlemen, what kind of country do you want to live in? What kind of world do you want to live in? Clearly, what we're doing now doesn't work. It has run its course. We have a government that has a lot of problems. We have corruption within it, not all of it, but we clearly have corruption within it. They have sold out and have been totally compromised. They themselves don't know what to do. And and their only solution is to turn the power of the military and the power of the pharmaceutical company against the American people. That's their solution. That is not okay. That's not okay. It's time for the UFO, the Exopolitics Committee, to start creating another domain of knowing. And that domain of knowing is two things. What does a holographic social structure look like? How can we live with a holographic social structure mirrored after some of the principles that our founding fathers laid, but it wasn't perfect? What could we do now? And we're not just talking about the United States. This has to be a global thing. This has to be a global movement. What does that look like? So we need to create and start groups, dialogues, talking about living in a holographic structure where all the information that is available, black op, secret, top secret, above top secret, is available to everyone. But we could just start with the information that we do have. The rest of it will come. It's going to collapse on itself because it's no good. It cannot stand on its own. And the minute we turn our focus away from them and they can't feed off our fear, it will collapse in a heartbeat. Because where focus goes, energy flows. Okay? As long as they keep you looking at it, they are using the energy of your soul, of your spirit, to feed this monstrosity. It's time to just ignore them. Turn your focus away and let's create what we really, really want. But we have to decide what that is. Along with that, I have been asked to start asking people to talk to people. You're the first to hear this. about what would it look like for you, for Earth, and we'll start with the exopolitics community, what would it look like for you to be mentored by several benevolent extraterrestrial races? What would that look like? What would we need to do to establish not only that communication, but at the same time have us feel safe with checks and balances so that they can walk their talk and we have to walk our talk? Open mentorship is our destiny. It's going to happen anyway, but we cannot wait for the government to turn itself around. It can't because it's not in control. All right? It is not in control. So, we have to turn our focus away from all that drama and figure out another way. What I want to do now is read to you what I was given way back when regarding creating a domain of knowing. This also came from Phaseus. Create another domain of knowing, communicating and being. In other words, the domain of calling forth or generating your intent needs to be more distinct. Your physics, as you call it, is a good example of this calling forth. There have been men on your planet who have called forth new domains of thinking that never existed before here. They invented it. They didn't fantasize it. They didn't pretend. They literally created this new context from what you now call physics. Your humanity is strong with this kind of example. No being, however, makes the distinction that this is what they are. I would like to give you an example. Your concept of human rights wasn't so long ago that no such thing existed on your planet. It just simply didn't exist. You Terrans did not have any rights. Only the kings and the priests had their rights. But most of you Terrans do not have any rights. So you and other Terrans created human rights from nothing. You created the domain that created not only the rights to come forth, you created the language, and then you communicated it. And this communication that you gave had power because it was full of intent. It has the power not only to represent and to invoke, but it also to literally bring it into being. This is what your races need to do in order to clearly know yourselves. Now, in talking about that, let's talk about religions for a moment. The pyramidal structure of our governments primarily have come out of ancient Rome. And Rome was essentially controlled by 13 families. Okay? Those 13 families still exist today. Many of the world's religions, though they've had a tremendous amount of value and have brought an enormous amount of comfort to many people in our history and in our present day, they focus on shame, guilt, sin, and control. And ladies and gentlemen, that's the trap. Okay? They don't focus on self-responsibility. They don't focus on life or respect. They, in fact, create more division than we have ever known. Now, did they start out that way? With the exception of the Roman Catholic Church? I'm just going to be blunt about it. No. But the powers that be are masters of infiltrating movements. And what they do And I'll give you the best example I can give you is that of a charitable foundation. A foundation is created using the power of the people and the monies, the resources of the people, to do something that is of a benefit to humanity. As it's moving and it begins to gain power and it starts to spread and shift consciousness, awareness, the powers that be will walk in and say, hey, we really believe in what you're doing. And we're going to give you a $25 million grant to help you continue to do your work. But we want to put one of our members on the board just to make sure that the money is spent wisely. And then they do it again. And now you have a second board member. And now you have a third board member. And before you know it, that movement, that foundation, instead of going up and creating more consciousness, more awareness, is now heading the other way. Okay? And now they also control the wealth of that foundation. Okay? We have been thinking in a pyramidal structure, in a third density structure. They're in fourth density, in holographic. We have to think the same way. And we have to be talking about how is it that we got ourselves into this. Now, this isn't a question of, well, it's essential that we put blame to the side for the moment. There's plenty of that, and there will be plenty of that. What we need is the knowledge. We need to know how these structures work so that we can create something different, something in total opposition to it. Because I can't imagine everybody's happy with the way things are. Okay? And this isn't just about the United States. This is about the global population. Because the extraterrestrial races don't see us as separate countries. They see us as one race. Okay? And we're all between a rock and a hard place, pretty much. Okay? At the moment. Taking personal responsibility is huge, but it really is the first and the biggest step to achieving full consciousness. Okay? I'm going to read you a quote that I found. It's from a gentleman named Little Hawk. He's a Native American Indian with the Mohawk tribe. Take credit for your mistakes, not what you do good, because you're supposed to be doing good anyway. Okay? We've all made mistakes. We've all screwed up. Okay? But that's part of the learning process. Okay? If you had all knowledge and you were all seeing, you wouldn't need to be here. Okay? So, collectively and individually, we need to start looking at the world and saying, what has my contribution been? Now, I'm not talking about going out and trying to save the world. It's not about that at all. Okay? It's really about each one of us individually. It's about being the light. It's about not feeling shame for our mistakes. It's about absolutely unlearning that you are not a sinner. That is such crap that I want to vomit every time I hear that. Okay, you are not a sinner. You are a spiritual being in a physical body. Or as George Green said, rent a wreck. I like that. That was really cute. Okay? Now, look at the structure that is overlaying us. Governments of control and dominance. A monetary system that controls everything. Corporations and banks that own the debt of every nation, which means literally they're in control because they have the debt. Okay? We have medical and pharmaceutical companies who have had cures for cancer and other diseases, okay, that now want to damage your DNA with untested vaccinations. Imagine how afraid they are of you. Can you just for a moment imagine how afraid of you they are? And now you've got to ask yourself the question, why are they afraid of you? Okay? Because we are awesome, awesome creator gods. We have the ability to create reality, to bring it forth, to call it forth. And they have done everything they can to continue to make sure that we believe we're powerless. This is why so many extraterrestrial races are coming here now. Okay? Because they know different. On some level, ladies and gentlemen, we consciously have called forth this drama. This is really about us. Okay? We have called this forth. Okay? This is really about us. It's not about them. And we need to step into our power here. We need to fully understand it's time for us to step into our power as a planetary race and not see the borders anymore. Now, I would not be that opposed to a global government if it was set up with a constitution like the U.S. Constitution and an absolute Bill of Rights. But even then, that's not a guarantee. Because if people don't defend those rights, if people don't defend their liberties, what good is it? We've just experienced that. Okay? We've just experienced that. And in 1913, when the Federal Reserve took over, that's when the train started going the other way. And here we are. $100 trillion in debt. An absolutely ridiculous number. Okay? It's probably higher. Who knows? Okay? Now, in creating our holographic model of a civilization or a social structure, do we want to have a monetary system? Do we actually need a monetary system? Because we're the only ones that I'm aware of in our galaxy that still use a monetary system. Okay? In fact, many, many years ago, I had been asked by Morin Avisez to put together a short presentation on money. They already knew about it, but I did the best that I could. And when it was over, Visayas just looked at me and he goes, I don't understand. And I said, well, what do you not understand? He says, I don't understand why you have to pay to live on a planet you were born on. Okay? And ladies and gentlemen, that has haunted me ever since. And just that one little thing takes you completely out of the box. Okay? For the first time you begin to think, well, geez, what would it look like not to have a currency? You know? Advanced civilizations, all their needs are taken care of. All of their standard day-to-day life needs are met by the government. No strings attached. And then you donate your time and your expertise and your skills to do something you want that benefits the whole. Okay? Now, I'm not talking about communism either. It's something bigger than that. Okay, but we need some help in defining what that is. Now, we have a lot of really brilliant, intelligent people here and in the world. And I know other people around the world have been talking about similar things, creating a different society, and maybe even a holographic society, and what that looks like, a holographic power structure. So no matter what happens, it will totally always stand on its own. The Founding Fathers tried to do something like this when they created all the states as equal, in control, and separate from the government. That was pretty much their intent, whether they realized it or not. I also want you to know that we have a lot of help. We are getting a lot of help from the spiritual side as well as the dimensional side. And I'm not talking about just dimensional beings. I am talking about also extraterrestrials. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. The vision at Valley Forge of George Washington. I know that a lot of people on the net, if you've not researched it, I suggest that you do. Some say it's a hoax. It's not a hoax. I also want you to know that Thomas Jefferson, in his diaries, was out walking at his estate in Monticello, was trying to figure out the verbiage, the language, in regards to the Declaration of Independence. when he was met by a hooded man who he never really clearly saw, who gave him the conversation and the pieces that he needed to finish the Declaration of Independence. I also want you to know that in the Constitutional Hall, when everybody was bantering and going back and forth, and it looked like no one was going to sign the Declaration of Independence, up on the top railing of the hall, a man appeared out of nowhere, and for 20 minutes gave an oration about how important this was, not only to the United States and to the moment, but to the entire world as a whole. And as soon as he was done, everybody rushed to the table and signed the Declaration of Independence. Benjamin Franklin and the Sergeant-at-Arms went upstairs to try to talk to this man because they wanted to know who he was. There were armed guards at every single door. The armed guards swore no one went in, no one went out. So there is divine providence here, ladies and gentlemen. It is not a mistake that you live in this country. It is not a mistake that you are who you are. Enough is enough. It is time we step into our power. And very simple steps will do this. First, you have to make a decision. And the decision is no more bullshit. Okay? No more bullshit. Okay? America is the reason it is because we allowed it to happen. By our apathy. Okay? We have elections. We know we're voting for the lesser of two evil. We know that. But we do it anyway. Okay? I also want you to know that the President of the United States is not in charge of our government.